everyone, good afternoon. We are the Group 4 from BEF 3B and we are tasked to have a report about graphic organizer. But before we will start, let me first define what is a graphic organizer. A graphic organizer is a visual and graphic display that depicts the relationship between facts, terms, and ideas within a learning task.
Why use graphic organizers? Graphic organizer can help to visualize and construct ideas and organize or sequence information, plan what to write, increase reading comprehension, brainstorm, organize problem and solutions, compare and contrast ideas, show cause and effect, and more. It facilitates critical and creative thinking. Graphic organizer allow the learners to focus only the highlighted essential components. It enables them to find necessary connections that could unveil answers to problems and issues in daily living. It organizes information. The human mind is designed to store information using a series of networks as we live day by day. We encounter various experiences which contribute to what we know. Graphic organizers gives us opportunity to organize and evaluate the existing and new knowledge that we encounter. It shows relationship and good relationship example that is always used to the broad to specific relationships. It is sometimes called as part whole relationship, which identifies the number and its components.
It allows self-directed learning. The good thing about graphic organizers is that it can be used for independent learnings among the learners. This is because it is much easier for the learners to graph information and see connections. It encourages interaction. This form of teaching strategy literally engages the learners to participate in class activities. Since they appreciate its visual nature, the motivation to learn comes next. It is a form of assessment. Teachers can assess learning both before and after the discussion. It could be both done informative and summative assessment.
Teachers may face various dilemmas on presenting and implementing their lessons to class. So, as mentioned earlier, the use of graphic organizers in the instruction reveals that there are many faceted outcomes. However, it is not easy to do so. In order to transform the instruction to the next level, the following procedures are recommended, cited from Curriculum Development Institute HK 2001. So there are different steps, various steps in how to use graphic organizer. First is familiarize yourself with different types of graphic organizers. So by this, you will know how or what graphic organizer or what type of graphic organizer you will use upon presenting your lesson to class. Second, explain to students what graphic organizers are and why they are useful in learning, so that the students will be guided and enlightened, and to understand what is the use of graphic organizer. You should tell them, or you should enlighten them, why you use graphic organizer to your class, so that they will not feel or think that they are misleading. Third is that present the specific graphic organizer for a topic. Point out its subject and organizational framework. So by this, it connects to the first step. You should be specific on what graphic organizer you will use upon presenting to your class, so that the students will not be in the situation of confusion, and also the lesson will be more specific.
Use examples to illustrate the use of some graphic organizers. Yes, it is very important to use examples or give examples to our learners to clearly expound the ideas and explain for them the uses of graphic organizers. By this, they can easily identify the function and how it's very useful the graphic organizers. 5. Another how to use graphic organizer is to assign the graphic organizer as an individual, paired, or group activity. For expounding and gives clear meaning of ideas, teacher usually give activity with the use of graphic organizer through group, individual, or paired. And teacher must assign them to fully understand how to use the graphic organizer. Review students' work. Generate classroom discussion on the effective use of graphic organizers. Yes, it is very important to review or assess students' work for them to check how they really understand the use of graphic organizer. Teacher must expound ideas, discuss for them to apply the effective use of graphic organizer.
There are 8 types of graphic organizer for social studies. The use of graphic organizers inside a classroom is relevant in promoting effective social studies education. It boasts active participation and maximizes teaching and learning. Having the same importance, Galavan and Cutler 2017 discuss it according to the purpose of learning. So first type of graphic organizer is assume and anticipate. This form of graphic organizer is best for formative assessment where teachers evaluate the schema of learners on a certain topic. The purpose are shown what is known, taken for granted, probable, possible, and what has captured students' curiosity. It is a great way to check prior knowledge and motivate students about the content. It records past experiences and existing questions. New discoveries will added. Example of that is the KWL charts. It is organized into a form of 3 columns. The first, known, second, want to know, and third is learn. The second type of graphic organizer is position and pattern. This type of graphic organizers help teachers and students see the relationship of a concept with another, particularly in chronological order, and how the pattern occurs with another and reoccurs in different contexts and events. The purpose of it shows sequence, order, or cause and effect. It helps students see how one idea relates to another in particular order. It is useful for recording notes during reading and discussions. Example of that is learners can visualize cause and effect by placing words or pictures in a sequence presented as a chain or a timeline. The third types is group and organize. These organizers help teachers and students understand that several ideas or parts are related to a single category. It can be shown in different shapes and forms. The purpose of it is shows type, category, or classification. It helps students understand how an idea is associated with a broader concept. It is great during partner or small group work.
The fourth graphic organizer is compare and contrast, also called a Venn diagram. It's made out of 2 overlapping circles that are used to explain similarities and differences between 2 topics. You can place the similarities where the 2 circles intersect, while outside the differences. With this graphic organizer, you can easily compare any 2 things you want, either for school assignments, hobbies, or work. There are numerous methods for comparing and contrasting the characteristics of objects, individuals, events, and so on. Many different types of graphic organizers make examining these similarities and
differences much easier. The word compare means to evaluate two or more objects, thoughts, persons, or other things in order to find similarities and differences. For instance, to compare two literary works. However, contrast means to demonstrate unlikeness or differences, note the opposite natures, purposes, etc. For instance, compare and contrast the political rights of Romans and Greeks. The fifth type of graphic organizer is relate and reason. The idea behind this type of graphic organizer revolves around the use of inductive and deductive thinking patterns. It shows whether a concept is part of a whole or the sum total of its parts. Inductive thinking mainly shares pieces of evidence in support of big ideas, while deductive thinking provides evidence for underlying concepts or topics. The sixth graphic organizer is identify and imagine. These organizers use various shapes and forms to visually represent several concepts or pieces of information. It allows the students to see connections and analyze relationships among concepts. The most common example of this is the concept map. When we say concept mapping, it is for brainstorming and organizing. It sometimes stem out in so many directions that they end up looking really complicated. These types of graphic organizers are good for many stages of content production, from the messy brainstorming stage to the more structured hierarchical organization. This type of organizational chart usually ends up very large and complex. It's more suited for personal use than for an infographic or presentation, although a concept map sometimes used for data visualizations that show connections between topics.
The seventh type of graphic organizer is estimate and evaluate. This type of graphic organizer show how to evaluate and explain concept through visual perspective. An example of this kind of graphic organizer is a bar and a pie graph. The last type of graphic organizer is combine and create. This kind of graphic organizer allow both teachers and students to construct their own representation. It also gives them freedom to create their own graphic organizer, or they can just simply combine two or more graphic organizer that was mentioned earlier.
And now, let's proceed on the exercise in which the teacher used graphic organizer in the lesson planning. This lesson plan is for grade 2, Araling Panlipunan, quarter 1, which content is ang aking komunidad. Let's move on the procedure part in the during lesson, specifically in the pagtatalakay. As you can see, the teacher used concept web in which student will write words that will describe or relate to the pictures. Aside from that, in the gawain, teacher also used comparison matrix between tag-init at tag-ulan. Lastly, in the after lesson, the teacher used Venn diagram to assess the learning of the students. That would be all in our discussion about graphic organizer. I hope you learned something.